¿Cómo están? Welcome. Welcome to your program, Life Essence. This program is very unique, very special, and we have some wonderful guests. I'm working with Kimberly.
Yes.
Hi,
Hello.
Kim.
Welcome.
It's good to have you.
I'm glad to be here. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. Kim, it's going to be a great show. We have a lot to discuss. But Kim, we have two wonderful guests too, don't we?
Yes, we have two wonderful guests. Can't wait to hear them both speak about their lives and what they're doing these days.
Yes, yes, yes. You know, we usually start with the women. Introduce the women first, but today we're going to change it since this program is unique. Dave Lopez,
Hi, how are you?
it's good to have you here.
Well, thank you. Nice being here.
It's wonderful that you drove all the way from the LA area to be here with us.
Well, we go back a long way.
Yes.
We're good friends, and I certainly am honored that you even remembered and wanted to be on your show. So I'm here.
How can you be forgotten? You know, when I heard that you wrote a book, a wonderful book that I want to hear about a little later, okay?
Sure.
Actually, I read all of it from page 1 all the way to the end. And whoever buys this book, I want them to reach page 33.
Okay.
It had me in stitches. It had me in
Page
tears,
33.
Kim. It had me
Yes, yes,
laughing and smiling. So
Yes.
this is a wonderful book by Dave Lopez. Our next guest, Kimberly.
Our next guest is the mayor, the former mayor of San Bernardino,
Yeah.
Ms. Judith Valles. And so she's going to be here and talk about her life and what she's doing now, to, in
Okay, thank
in
you.
San Bernardino.
I'm glad to be here. Thank
And you
for
were
inviting me.
two-term mayor.
I was a two-term mayor, and politics was the last thing on my mind when I was recruited to run for mayor after
Recruited.
I retired. I had already retired, and I became mayor. I think I was 64.
Uh-huh.
But you don't need to know my age, but I was already retired.
That's a teeny bopper.
Yeah. And I learned a great deal.
Good, good. And we were very lucky. I mean, I didn't live in San Bernardino. I've been here in Rialto. However, I heard all these positive things about you. And I kind of kept track of you.
Well, thank you. But the politicians, I don't want to put them down. Unfortunately, too many of them are consumed with the title and the perceived power that they have, and they forget about being a public servant.
Yes. Serving.
Not all of them.
Serving.
There's some good ones,
Nice.
but I think they're diminishing. And when I became mayor, I said, okay, never been in politics, but I'm a politician now. But my job is to serve the people of San Bernardino. Yeah.
And I remember you as the mayor, wonderful person. You were always in the community.
Always.
In the
Always,
community,
always,
doing
always.
so much for
Yeah.
the community. Every event downtown, she would just stand there. It's like, wow, because she was, it was amazing. The mayor actually came down to talk to us, and that was just amazing because we weren't used to that, So
I
in
think it
2
had to
terms.
do with my other career being a college president.
Correct.
And serving at several
Very
community
good.
colleges. And being a mayor of a city, politics, I just did what I used to do on the campus, except my campus was larger. 'cause it was a
Correct.
big
And
city.
San Bernardino's a pretty large city.
And so I just visited all the neighborhoods, drove around all of them, talked to all the neighborhoods, and became a part of their lives. And you care about people.
Yes, and you showed that you cared a lot about people.
It was my town.
Yes, absolutely.
And I wanted my town to be reborn, and we were doing great.
We were doing great,
At
especially
that time,
downtown.
it's a different story now.
But it's because the people cared.
And we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay, we'll talk about
We
that.
sure will. But Dave, talk to me. What have you been doing with yourself? Tell me a little bit about your history and what's going on now.
Well, I born and raised in Los Angeles. I'm the oldest of 8 children. My mother and father both immigrated from Mexico. My mother came from a family of 10. My dad was an adopted young man. He was a professional boxer very early in his life. Served in World War II. In fact, he tells a story that he was drafted. He was born in 1926. So he was at that age where he wasn't in the beginning of the war, but they moved him up in school half a semester so he can get drafted. And he did. And he was in the Philippines ready to be part of the invasion of Japan. That was going to be the big plan. That's how they were going to end the war. And he tells me that he was just, training over in the Philippines. He was 19 years old, and that's when Truman dropped the atomic bomb on the 2 cities of Japan, Hiroshima and then Nagasaki, and the war ended. Truman, the way the story goes, my dad tells me the story, and of course historians also tell it out, that Truman was meeting with all of his generals, and they said, well, it's going to take 2 million men to invade Japan. And Truman allegedly said, well, how many casualties? And they said 50%. And he said, you mean we're going to lose 1 million men to invade Japan? And then someone said, well, we got the Manhattan Project, and Truman knew nothing about it. Roosevelt kept them totally in the dark. Found out about it, dropped the bomb, and that was it. And to this day, my dad always used to tell us that Harry Truman was the greatest president that ever lived, because he said, I don't know what would have happened in the invasion of Japan. Who knows? So that's the background of my dad, and my mom was the second youngest of 10, and they high school sweethearts. And what I wanted to do in the book was I wanted to relate the kind of upbringing that I had. And everything that I have done in my life that's been successful started with the way my mom and dad brought us up. It was almost like a storybook type of relationship with my mom and dad. Dad went into business when I was 12. Child number 6 was on the way. I remember sitting in the kitchen and hearing my mom and dad. My mom used to call my dad Memo. His name was Antelmo. He says, but Memo, I'm going to have our 6th baby. I mean, how are you going to go into business? You're going to quit your job? My dad made a very good living as an upholsterer. He says, no, it's now or never. So they took $200 out of their $400 bank account, and my dad opened up Al's upholstery shop, and he stayed in the business for 44 years.
Wow.
So that, stick-to-itiveness, the ability to believe in yourself, that's what I was instilled with. And I transformed that into 48 years on television. I had a tremendous career, covered every major story there was in Los Angeles from 1972 on, and wrote about it. It's basically 2 books in one. It's a story about my life growing up, the trials and tribulations of that, and my career, and the stories behind the stories that I covered. And so far, people have accepted the book pretty well. It's selling well, and people like it. It's on Amazon. And as I tell people, if you like it, write a review. If you don't like it, keep it to yourself.
I think it's a wonderful book.
Well, thank you.
I enjoyed the
appreciate it.
history at the beginning, of course, and then I enjoyed how you started. Didn't you do newspapers at first? You were working at newspapers?
Yeah, I did. I started in I was 16 years old. I was one of those lucky guys that knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. Now, my father, his dream was for me to take over the business. There was no question about that. At the age of 12, I started working with him and for him. In fact, he used to always tell me, he says, I'm going to triple your salary, young man. You're doing such a good job. 3 times nothing is nothing. So, but I had a ball. I mean, my dad instilled a great work ethics in us, but I just didn't have the talent. I didn't have the talent or the desire to want to go into business. I could have run the business, but I couldn't do the upholstery work. And so I loved journalism ever since I was a little kid. I started as a newspaper boy when I was 10, and I was just fascinated with the news. I used to watch all the newscasts, the whole thing, and it's all I ever wanted to do. And when I was 16 years old, I got a job at a newspaper, and that was it. I never. My dream was to one day get into television. I had a plan. Everything was planned out. I was one of those guys that had a plan, stuck to it, and it's all I put it all in the book here. What made me tick, and it all came to fruition. And along the way, there was some, ups and downs. I mean, life is not the reason I made the title. It's a great life if you don't weaken. My father used to always say that. That was his saying. He was, it's a great life, kids, but you can't weaken. You can't give up. You can't let things get you down. And I had cancer, overcame cancer. Had a wife that got very, very ill and eventually died, and that was tough. Had a mother, adored my mother. She had Alzheimer's, a horrendous disease. The last 6 years of her life, she didn't know who I was, which was terrible. My father, who was just this strong, macho, idol of mine, completely crumbled at the idea that his wife could no longer recognize him, didn't know who he was. Right. And it was very tough at the end for him. So I throw it all in, and no truer words have ever been spoken by my father. It is a great life if you don't weaken. And I had a great time doing it. It was fun, reminiscing, and I think also at the same time it was great therapy for me as well.
I'm sure it was.
That's quite a story. As I'm listening to him, I thought, well, I can relate to a lot of this.
Well, the thing, because it was tough. I mean, my dad used to kid us in the neighborhood. I mean, we're talking 1955 when my dad bought his first house in a very middle-class neighborhood, Southgate. There were very few Hispanics. I mean, when I went to high school, I think there were, my graduating class of over 400, I must have been maybe one of 20, There just weren't that many. And going into business, a Hispanic man in Southern California in 1960. I mean, that was almost unheard of.
Well,
you
that,
know.
like I said, I can
Right.
relate to that because my parents came when they were 12 and 13 from Mexico because their parents had been killed by Pancho Villa. So they came here, and I'm one of 8 children.
Okay.
I was the 7th born, so a large
okay.
family. But the strength that my parents showed us, for example, my mother told us stories of my father closing the door and telling him, Jovita, no me molestes, don't bother me. I have to learn English. That is the only way we will succeed in this country. And so my father learned English, right? And he taught himself English, and he insisted that we go, back in those days, schools were segregated. Mexicans had to go to this school over here. And my father said, no, you live right across this street,
Right,
this
right.
school. I want my children to learn English so they can succeed. And so he kept us out of, or my oldest brother, I wasn't born then, kept us out until we integrated, or he integrated the schools. But it was his courage that,
Very
that,
nice.
that, that kept us going. And my mother's saying, she was always quoting Proverbs. She would say, el orgullo me tumba y el hambre me tumba y el orgullo me levanta. Hunger may knock me down, but my pride will always help me rise. That was her saying every day. So you never, ever give up.
Yeah, well, Mom and Dad instilled in that. They instilled you have to look sharp. My dad always told me, I don't care if you don't have a pot to in or a window to throw it out. You're gonna have good-looking clothes. You're gonna have my
Yeah,
dad
absolutely.
gave me a shoe shine kit when I was 8. I'll never forget. And he taught me how to shine shoes. He says, you don't go anywhere unless your shoes are shined. You got to look sharp. He says, you walk in someplace, he says, I don't care what it is. You walk in like you own it.
Yeah.
You know, he says, you never back down. You never take a back seat to anybody. And my mom, God bless her, was there all the time. I mean, you know, I can still see my mother in the kitchen cooking. You know, I tell people, I said, I was 14 years old before I realized that rice and beans weren't on the table of every family in America. You know, I didn't, Mom, but
That sounds like my grandma, too.
But I can still see my mother in the kitchen, loved to talk on the phone. So she had this great big long extension cord. My mom would be on the phone, and she'd be cooking, and she'd have one baby in her arm, another little toddler tagging, and someone else saying, Mom, 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 and there she was, you know, balancing the whole thing. You know.
Well, I don't remember babies because I was one of the babies. I was one of the youngest.
Yeah.
But the pride that my parents had and the insistence that we all be educated and all 8 of us have a university education. And that was because of my parents'
Right.
insistence that the only way to succeed in this country, and yes, we all succeeded, but because they set the example. My father began as a warehouseman, storing things in the Home Supply Company, which is an affiliate of Santa Fe, and then he ended up being the general manager. Now, for a little guy from Mexico, couldn't speak English to become the general manager, but even more so, he
Absolutely.
started the Spanish newspaper in San Bernardino, which he didn't have before.
Oh, wow.
La Opinión
that's-
existed in Los Angeles.
nice.
He also started a radio program in Spanish, Melodías Mexicanas, the first one in the area. So he was a real entrepreneur. And
In
then,
San Bernardino.
And San Bernardino.
That's amazing.
That's
awesome.
amazing. But
Yeah.
then on top of it, he would bring Mexican artists. I remember
Yeah.
Cantinflas, most people don't know who he
Yes,
is, but he
yes.
actually came to our house.
No kidding. Wow.
Pedro Infante, Jorge Negrete. Now, those were big stars back in those days. They actually came to my house. Of course, I was a kid, right? But big deal. But my father created a promotion up and down the state of California for Mexican artists. Now, here's a guy that didn't even have a 6th grade education, but it was his commitment to success, and he insisted. And my mother, of course, was a disciplinarian and always said, be always courteous and polite. Lo
Yes.
cortés no quita lo valiente. Courtesy does not diminish your courage. It takes more courage to be polite to somebody that you'd want to tell them to go to hell. But she said, no, no.
That's true.
El orgullo me levanta.
That's right.
Pride keeps me up.
That's
and,
right.
And I've always remembered that. And I think that has helped me in my career.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, it's
There's
a
no doubt
foundation,
about
and
it.
that's what I wanted. You see, I had a couple of publishers. I self-published, And I had a couple publishers that were interested. But they said, you got too much of your personal life. Take this out, take that out, and give us more of this, give us more of that of what you covered. And I didn't want to write a book like that. And so I was able to get a very good collaborator who knew the business back and forth. It's not easy. But we put it together, and I wrote the book that I wanted. And very much like you're saying, I mean, you know, that's what's missing today in many families. You don't have that unity. You don't have that, the mom and dad being the example of saying, look, this is what you're going to do, this is what you have to do.
A good foundation.
My dad would take us for Sunday drives. It was we'd go to see my grandma every Sunday. And then my dad would take us for a drive. And he would take us to Skid Row. And he would drive us up and down Skid Row. At that time, it was just on 4th Street, not far from downtown. And so he would say, look, you can live like this, but that's the easiest thing you can be, a bum. But this is how you're going to be if you don't get a college education. Then before Dodger Stadium was built, he'd take us through Chavez Ravine, which was shacks, you know, cardboard shacks. And he would say, hey, you know, you don't want to work hard? You can live like this if that's what you want to do. And we'd all sit in the back seat, our eyes would be wide open, you know, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But that's what it was. But my dad he was really tough. Being the oldest, I think I took most of the brunt. But hey, I was okay. I survived.
You survived, and look where you're at now. You know, this is a very interesting discussion about both of you. I've really enjoyed listening, but let's get to our next conversation thought here. I want to discuss, just for a few minutes, Roe versus Wade.
Okay.
Do you believe that we as women should have a right?
Of course, and I think the government should stay the hell out of our personal lives. I think a woman, now, back in the old days, you know, women chose to have abortions, whichever way, and the government never interfered, and we were fine. So the government should stay the hell out of a woman's personal body. If she wants to have an abortion, it's her conscience that should
That's the answer
dictate
to
it.
it.
Yeah. And the reasons for wanting an abortion, who knows what the reasons are, but it's nobody's damn business. It's the woman. That's whatever her reasons are, and it's her decision to make.
It's something that certainly is going to, I think, in the long run, split the country even more than what it's split now. It really is. You have your real strong Christian people that believe, you know, strictly in the Bible and strictly in this, strictly in that. But I agree with you. I've long felt, and you know, being Hispanic, and I don't mind telling people I'm a Democrat. Always have been, you know, but I've always been the kind of guy that voted for the man or the woman rather than for the party. Yeah. But I think that in this situation, it is something that the government has no business sticking their nose in. How they're going to rectify it, I don't know. I really don't know.
No.
People don't understand the importance of a Supreme Court justice and the ability to nominate. I mean, people have no idea how important that was in the latter days of Trump. And for a while there, people thought that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was going to live forever, but we all knew that she couldn't. You know, but it changed history. It really did change history. It's a tough one. It's a very difficult.
It's a tough one. Yeah, it's a tough one. But the average woman doesn't care about all that political stuff. They just know what's impacting their personal life.
Rights.
And the government should just stay the hell out of it.
California is the one state that, where people aren't going to have to worry about that because they're still going to be able to have their abortions in California the way it's written. But you imagine you'd be some poor girl in Kentucky or Louisiana or Mississippi, and you're in a situation. Wasn't there a case of it?
Let's say that poor girl got raped.
The
the 10-year-old girl.
Okay.
That was awful.
Right.
That broke my heart. And then they didn't believe her. I was like, oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
A 10-year-old child. Now, you as a nurse, you were a nurse, and now
Retired.
you teach.
I teach.
You teach, and you were also in the military.
Yes.
What
the
service
major
were you
military.
in, Kim?
Oh, no, Army Nurse Corps.
Wow.
Mental health psych.
How many
nurse,
years?
yes. 34 years.
Oh my.
34
And
years
a
reserve,
nurse.
Wonderful.
Wow, that's fantastic.
I retired for nursing. I was 35 years with the state of California.
Oh, wow.
Did you see the world?
I saw a lot of the world. Been to Europe a few times. Yeah, saw a
Okay.
lot. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed. I enjoy traveling. That's why I still travel. I try to travel as much as I can. I go on as many cruises as I can in 1 year. But COVID kind of put a damper on everything. But I'm back and running. I have another. I have went on one last month. I'm going on another one in October.
Where are you going in
So,
October?
I'm going to Belize as one of the cities.
Oh,
I'm going
Belize.
to
Wonderful,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've been
It's
there.
Great.
Pretty nice.
So thank you for sharing thoughts about yourself. Now tell me, what is your opinion on this Roe versus Wade issue?
My opinion, I just think women should have the rights. You know, I don't believe, of course, I don't believe in abortions. I don't think it's a great thing for anyone. The Bible says you shouldn't and you shouldn't. But I believe women, it's my right. I don't like people telling me what to do with my body.
Do you think it's going to regress to where women are going to begin to lose some of their rights?
Well, you know, the way it's written, I love the way it's written. And, you know, it's state by state. And in California, we're pretty safe. But other states, I really do feel bad for a lot of the women who have to deal with that. Someone else telling them what to do, how to do it, and they have no control over their own body, their own mind. I think it's not a nice thing.
No, it's a very, very dangerous precedent at the time. I still think in the end, though, that this is such an overwhelming feeling, and women have never been stronger. I mean, there's no
Yeah, we're
question.
not strong.
Come
We're not
together.
going to let that
Yeah,
happen.
no,
They're
no.
coming together.
Yeah,
I
you
Yeah,
bet.
no. I mean, that's the one
If it
big
means
thing.
I come out of retirement, I will.
I mean, to think that at one time women couldn't even vote in this country.
That's
for
true.
God's sakes.
That's true.
The progress that they've made, and,
Yeah.
the kind of leadership now that we have from
Yeah.
women. I mean, we've got some very inspirational
Absolutely.
people. So I think this will work itself out somehow, some way. But people are going to have to wake up. You cannot be on the sidelines anymore. People have to get involved. They really, really do. I remember very vividly covering a lot of school board meetings and what have you. And I remember one time talking to a teacher, not a teacher, but a well-known educator, who said, as a parent, he said, if you can't spend an hour a night helping your kid with homework of some kind or taking an interest, and you don't go to back to school nights, you don't go to teacher conferences nights, don't come crying to us if your child is failing in school. Because
Absolutely.
it all starts at home. It has
Take
to.
an interest in your child's
Yes.
education.
And it
like
makes
that.
a huge, huge
Yes,
difference.
it does. Yes,
You
it
know,
does.
huge difference.
It made a difference in my life. My mother would go to the PTA meetings. She wouldn't have an idea of what they were saying. But she would sit there. And then we'd walk home and she would say, ¿Qué dijeron? What did they talk about?
What did they say?
And I would say, in Spanish, I would tell Mama, si no entiendes por qué vienes, if you don't understand, why do you come? She says, because I'm your mother.
Absolutely.
And I want them to know that your mother is interested in your education. They don't know I don't understand.
Just being
and
in
I
the
say,
room.
yay.
No,
That's right.
one of the things I do after my first wife, Elaine, I was married to Elaine for 43 years, and she was a school teacher, very, very dedicated school teacher. And after she passed away, I wanted to do something special, so I started a scholarship in her name. And I just didn't want it to be any kind of scholarship. I wanted it to go to kids who wanted to become teachers.
Oh, nice.
So I found a school through the LA Unified School District. It's called Harbor Teacher Preparatory Academy. It's on the campus of Harbor JC.
Good.
And kids go there primarily because they want to be teachers. And I'm very happy to say we're in our 9th year. We just finished our 9th year. We give
great.
$12,000 a year to the winner.
That's great.
That's
$2,000
Yeah.
to two other kids that come in here.
Wow.
And I sponsor it myself. I mean, I get donations from people, but I just budget it for myself.
That's
I mean, that's just
wonderful.
what I do.
Yes,
And we
so you
give-
don't just talk about it.
No, and
You're doing it.
and 80%. I mean, I didn't write the book to make money, but 80% of the money that I do get from the book is going to continue the scholarship. I keep telling people, I go, one of the things they didn't tell me real clear when I retired is that I'm not going to be making the same kind of money as though I was still working. I said, nobody told me that.
I could have told you that.
As I facetiously say.
Paycheck
You should have called Judy.
Should have called.
No, I have no reason to complain. But it's, again, it goes back to the education. And those kids, most of them are Hispanic kids,
Yep.
minority background, but they're motivated. The teacher, that staff is phenomenal. It's a small school. Graduating class is usually from 90 to 100. But so far we've given 9 scholarships, and of the 9 we've given, 4 are now full-time teachers.
Wow,
wonderful.
wonderful.
So we're doing pretty good. But again, it goes back to the whole thing we were talking about. Is the motivation has to start at home. You have to have that
and
at home.
that's where my motivation came from, and yours.
Yeah, and that was the key. That was why. I mean, my dad would always say, he says, education, and be inquisitive, ask questions,
Ask questions, yes.
and that's what we've always been able to do.
Let's go back to you, Judith, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'd like to ask you, I understand that the city of San Bernardino went bankrupt.
Ah,
How can we fix that? What would you say to the person that's coming on board as mayor to do? What would you guide them to do? Or what is the solution?
that's a tough question, and it's not an easy answer.
Okay.
First of all, our politicians, unfortunately, and probably people aren't going to like my saying this, but I don't care anymore. I'm not running for office or anything. But people run for office now not because of the public service that they should provide the people. They do it for their ego and the title, and then it's our fault because that's the mayor, that's the supervisor, and so we cater to it, and they just love it. But that's not the reason. Our elected officials are not really public servants. They're there for themselves. I see that, and I'm very disappointed in that. Back to the city. Elected officials should remind themselves that they are public servants, and they are there to make a situation better. In order for San Bernardino to come back to how it should be, we should beautify it, start with the pavement of the streets, simple things,
Correct.
like paving the streets, having a plan to pave
Getting rid of
them
some of the
regularly, and also providing plenty of playground facilities for the children so that
Yes.
families will want to raise their families in a place that cares about children. So you have facilities, recreational facilities for the children, and you have beautiful parks, and you have beautiful streets, and you engage the neighborhoods and make people responsible and caring for their neighborhoods. That goes a long way because I saw it with my own eyes. You communicate with people, let them know that you care,
Care.
and
Makes
that
a
you
difference.
observe everything that they do, and it all comes together. It's
Just a
not
little
an
simple
easy
things.
task.
Yeah, just the little simple things.
Simple things.
Yeah.
But when you're an elected official, you really care. You get out there. If you have a cleanup day, you get out there, you clean up stuff yourself. I mean, I did a lot of cleanups when I was mayor, but I did it because you care about your city,
Right.
and the people need to know that you care. San Bernardino will come back. It's a county seat. It's a beautiful facility, and the location is ideal. The mountains, you want to go skiing, you can go skiing
Yes.
20 minutes up the hill. You want to go surfing 50 minutes.
Out the
you
direction.
can, right, you can go. You want to go to the desert? There's Palm Springs, and
Yes.
fancy, get your massages. So we're right in the heart of all.
Yes.
Yep.
The location is ideal. It just takes a leader that cares about providing the
city.
service and beautifying the city again. It can be done.
Thank you so
It
much.
was done before, and we can do it again.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Mayor.
If we
Thank
elect the right
you.
people in there.
Get the right folks in there.
Get the right folks in
All
there.
right. Thank you very much for that thought. Now, Dave, your book,
Yes.
It's a Great Life.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, we can.
Right.
It's a very good book. Now, I know where I got my book, but where can others?
Amazon.
Amazon?
Amazon's the main thing. I've done a lot of book signings and what have you, but I'm kind of going to taper off on that a little bit. But
No, you got to sign mine.
No. I mean, going to places. I mean, I'll gladly sign it. I mean, I've been very, very touched by the reaction, and it's been a lot of fun, been a lot of work. But Amazon right now, just go to Amazon.com and order your book, and they'll get it to you.
Order
good.
mine's on Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to plug my book. I've
Yes,
got-
please.
talk
Please.
to us.
I didn't
Yes,
bring it.
yes,
I
yes,
got
yes,
to-
yes.
Okay, I've talked about my
Another author.
parents. Right, another author, but that wasn't my main thing. My mother raised us on Proverbs. Every day we had Proverbs. Even when I was teaching, I would use the Proverbs. Lo cortés no quita lo valiente, okay? Dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres, and all kinds. So finally, one of my assistants says, Judith, why don't you write all these sayings down? You're going to forget them. So I finally wrote them down. And the name of the book is As My Mother Would Say.
Nice
Como
title.
decía mi mamá.
Oh,
And it's a
good.
list of all my mother's proverbs, those that I could remember. It's difficult to remember them when they're not in context, you know, because the situation
Sure.
has to arrive and it reminds you of the proverb. But they're all there, and so I was
I'm gonna
raised on
find it.
Proverbs. And the mantra was lo cortés no quita lo valiente, which I think has helped me. That's been kind of my mantra throughout my political career, or even when I was president. Courtesy does not diminish courage. Always take the high road, even if you want to tell people to go
Right.
go someplace else.
Yes.
But yeah, lo cortés no quita lo valiente. I think that has really helped me.
Yeah.
And that's also at Amazon or at any bookstore.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts, Kimberly?
No, I thought it was a wonderful interview. Thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you. I really
Um,
enjoyed meeting you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. The pleasure
you.
was mine.
Thank
You. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it was good. We did my because I'm a mental health nurse.
Oh, yes.
So that's my thing. So I was wondering, you know, our mental health situation.
Oh, yes.
And our homeless situation
Oh,
is
wow.
not very good in San Bernardino, and it's really not good in
Oh, it's
Los
awful in LA.
Angeles.
It's
Terrible.
awful. It's awful.
Do you have any solutions, and what do you think?
We need leaders who care and not just talk about it.
Absolutely.
It's easy to talk. We've got to do something about the homeless people. What? What are you going to do?
What are we gonna
And
do?
it's not an easy. It's not
It's
an
not
easy
easy
solution.
fix.
No,
No, it is
no,
not.
No, it is not. But we do have, and we do have to find shelters, homeless shelters, but
Right.
not just shelters. We also have to provide the education
Absolutely.
to help them train for a career and a job. We have to help them feel good about themselves.
Yes.
Easier said than done.
Yes.
And you do it through education.
Thank you.
And that's what's missing.
Absolutely.
But it's not an easy solve. But it takes a leader who cares.
Who cares.
And is committed and not just bullshit
That commitment.
words.
I
Yeah,
understand.
no. You have to actually go out and do something. You know,
Yes.
you have to. I mean, you can't just sit there and.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I've lived in LA all my life,
Yeah.
and Skid Row was 4th and San Pedro. That was it. That was it. I mean, that was the section.
Yeah,
That was
I
the
remember.
intersection. That was the corner.
Yeah.
And now, my God, you just. Oh, it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah, you
It's
kind
everywhere.
of don't
Yeah,
want to
I,
go
I
down
found,
there.
I
sometimes.
find two things very interesting. Covered the Olympics in 1984, and boy, they sure cleaned up the homeless then.
Yes, they did.
I mean, there was
remember.
there was
was all
no
for show.
problem with
It
the
was
homeless
not-
in 1984,
they did.
and then the Super Bowl was going to be played at SoFi
Yes,
Stadium,
it is.
and there was a huge homeless encampment as you got off the freeway, made the right turn, and started heading towards SoFi. All of a sudden, one weekend, they're gone, vanished, gone. It can be done.
So where did they go, or do you know?
They just took them out of there. I don't know where, but they took them out of there
Incredible.
somewhere. But they were gone. You know, so I'm saying it can
You're
be
right.
done.
So it can be done.
It
Correct.
takes a commitment.
It
Correct.
just
It's a
takes
commitment.
the.
But see,
have to
I know
wanna
it
do
can
it.
be done, but where are they going? And that's going to be a continued discussion for our next
Absolutely.
program.
Yeah, well, the other thing that I found in the stories that I did on the homeless, a lot of these people from out of state, because they get a lot of benefits. They get a lot of good
Oh,
benefits.
California.
In
is-
California.
And if,
It's
and if
warm.
you,
And the weather.
Yeah, weather.
Yeah, and if you chased them away and they knew they're not going to get any benefits, they'll go back to where they came from originally. I mean, not all of them. Not all
But
of
some
them.
of them will,
Yeah,
yes.
but
Yeah.
some, no, but
That is
it's
true.
a situation that's just has spiraled out of control. It's
That-
just-
So,
that-
yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, California.
Completely
Okay.
and totally.
Until next time.
All right, well, thank you.
Dave,
Well,
it's been
thank you.
wonderful
Oh,
to
my
see
pleasure.
you.
Thank
My
you
pleasure.
for having us.
Oh, thank you for
I
being
enjoyed
here.
meeting you, and I enjoyed meeting
Well,
you.
thank you. The pleasure was
And
mine.
your book, we're going to see about buying it. The title again?
As my mother would say.
As my mother would say. And Dave, your wonderful book as well.
It's a great life if you don't weaken.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I do need my
I
autograph.
sure will. I got it. No problem at all.
Absolutely.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Life
Thank you.
Essence has had some wonderful guests today. Dave Lopez, thank you for being here. Mayor Judy Valles, thank you for being here. Kimberly, I've had fun with you.
It's been great. Thank
You
you.
did a great
Enjoyed it.
job.
Thank you.
And we are going to work a little more on that mental health issue
Oh.
and the homeless in our next program, okay?
Absolutely. Okay,
Is that
sounds
okay with
good.
you?
Yes, absolutely.
And
Sounds
guys,
wonderful.
thank you
Thank you.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And remember, those of you at home, Life Essence is a program for you. So until next time, Kimberly and I want to say goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you very much. And just write in if you have any questions and if you want to get more information. And on what's it, 150 Palm Rialto 92376 and Rialto Network channel 3 and 9. Thank you very much. Thank you for
Kimberly,
joining us.
thank you. Thank you for doing that. We do need letters too.
Yes, lots.
Okay, until next time, I'm Erlinda, and this is Kim,
Yes.
Dave Lopez, and Judy Valles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been fun.
Thank you.
guys.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Care.